you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Just so you know, I had to hang up on Jack Ham to talk to you. Just so you know. I mean, come on. I just want to make sure you guys understand how important I think, Todd, how important you are in all this. Okay?
That's going on my grave. Steve hung up on a Hall of Famer.
To talk to me. Wow. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. So, this half hour, being brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. We bring in Mike Poorman. Hello, Mike. Welcome back. It's great to talk to you. It's great to see you both in Phoenix and also in Miami.
Well, it's you go from ham to a ham and eggers, so there you go, buddy.
It's great to talk with you, Mike. We are now hitting the interesting time of the year, but before we get to the interesting time of the year of comings and goings, in the off season, I was asked more often than not about A, getting to the playoff, and B, hosting a game. Nothing else beyond that. Now they've gone through it, and they went past all of that. Does hindsight give us an idea of how much progress was made this year based on what the goal?
Well, it should. And hindsight is always 2015, right? But I think that the way things move so fast and the way the game ended the other night is superseding what was accomplished. And I wrote a piece heading into it. Final Four. If you make the Final Four in basketball, it's crazy good, right? And it hit me when I heard the phrase for the first time, Penn State football made the Final Four. If you want to compare apples to oranges, basketball to football, Final Four is a huge idea. If this was basketball, I think Mike Rhodes would have not only a road, but they'd rename Beaver Avenue in his favor if they made the Final Four.
No question. And that's what Penn State did in football this year. They made the Final Four along the way. Now, the game itself, incredibly disappointing. I felt like it wasn't that Notre Dame won the big plays. I felt like Notre Dame won more of the big moments in the game. How did you look at it?
Yeah, that's really well put. The moments were not too big for them. And I think for that reason, they were able to stay in the game, even though it didn't seem it. I was watching the Eagles yesterday, and it was 10-0, and I don't know if it was Brady or his play-by-play person, but they said it feels like it's 78-0, and that's how the first half felt against Notre Dame. So they rode the moments, Notre Dame. It's kind of funny how that played out, and then they scored 24 in the second half, which was incredible.
Yeah, it was. But it's amazing how we always talk about you need touchdowns, and like that opening scoring drive where Penn State got 3 when he was wide open for 7. You felt like that really hurt. I felt like the field goal at the end of the half, especially when they created the fumble and it looked like Abdul-Carr had it, you felt like that really hurt. I mean, there's certain things that hurt along the way beyond everything else.
I think that fumble recovery by Notre Dame may have been the play of the game because it gave them momentum. And this was interesting. I know you're doing the broadcast, but James in his TV comments on the way out into the locker room at halftime said, we're good. And I thought, you're up 10-0, but, that's not good. You should be thinking we're 0-0. And I think that I'm not sure if James said anything at halftime, but given what we've learned that Freeman said at halftime, I think Penn State had a 10-3 lead, and it felt 20-3, and they acted like it was 20-3.
Well, okay, so the Drew Aller part of it. We all know that reactions run hot on these things after games like that. I mean, it runs hot. Now that everything is cooled down a bit, are you getting more rational comments? Not happy and not, thrilled with, either a pass here, whatever. But is it a little more rational now?
Yeah, Joel Klatt had some really rational thoughts as far as the situation Drew was in and how he reacted on the field. And for me, it's Joel Klatt matters much more than a Joe Smith, and I intentionally don't read the message boards. So I think in that sense, Drew was maybe in a position where, God love him, and the Drew last year wouldn't have done that, right? The Drew last year would have not tried to make a play. And the Drew this year did try to make the play. And the fact that they were in that situation was a number of things. Drew just happened to be the point guy for it. And I thought he handled it well in the post-game presser. And he's back on campus. And I think this is kind of corny, Steve, but you're probably the perfect person to share this with, is as a professor and a person who's so close with the guys, college is still a learning experience. And so for Drew, this was the ultimate learning experience, right?
There's no question about that. And history can be a great teacher. Now, everybody is a different personality and a different talent. But we all, those who are old enough will remember the 1985 Orange Bowl. Penn State played Oklahoma for the national championship. John Schaefer didn't have America's greatest night. Okay? Edwin Pope, whom the press box is named after at Hard Rock Stadium, was incredibly cruel in his column the next day about John. And the fans weren't cruel. I'm talking about remember the poll the Patriot News did about quarterbacks? I got that.
Oh, yeah, who's going to start and with quarterback. And along with Pope was Dan Levitard, who was a columnist in Miami at the time. I mean, it was incredibly harsh. And John threw for 53 yards and had to win his job back. I don't think that's going to be the case with Drew.
No. But my point is, John came back the next year, and his two best games, by the way, were at Notre Dame and at Alabama. He missed a total of 7 passes, 7 incompletions in 2 games in those 2 venues, Bryant-Denny Stadium and Notre Dame Stadium, right? And that was as a senior, and it showed you the mental fortitude of John Schaefer, the way he bounced back from a bad experience. That's a lesson to learn from, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Drew's smart enough and self-aware enough to take that away. I think that, and the comparison is a good one, but we both know that 86 teams seemingly had half a roster full of fifth-year guys. That doesn't happen these days, and so the outsized responsibility to bounce back is not just going to be on Drew and as an individual, but Drew as a team leader, I think.
No question. And now it's going to be a question of who else fills in around him. And that's where the interesting part of the offseason, which is underway. I think the portal for Penn State closes tomorrow at midnight, I do believe. That's the end of the 5 days. Then there's this 48-hour period where maybe a name gets in there late, but they put it in before the deadline. So we'll know by probably Thursday at the very latest of every name that's in there. The roster retention part, not easy, but this is where new money coming in from the athletic department plus NIL. What kind of role can that play in roster retention?
Oh, it's massive. I told Todd, I've never prepared like I have for a 10-minute radio interview. You know, I'm thinking like I'm a GM, and I have a cheat sheet in front of me of who went in the draft, who's coming back, who doesn't have an announcement, who left in the portal, who came in the portal. It's incredible, and it's interesting. I'm not sure they've made the hire, but late fall, Penn State had a job posting for essentially a general manager to manage the dollars, the cents, and the analytics. And this is beyond the great job that Andy Frank, who not coincidentally is a Princeton engineer, has already done to manage those type of things.
Yeah, and see, that's the important part, because that assistant general manager part, the key to that is for that person to handle the money, right? Andy can handle personnel, but having somebody that's almost like a capologist, that's about what this is. This is a capologist job.
And you're looking at an infusion, and it's interesting. Missouri's numbers were made public this week, but you're looking at an infusion of cash from the athletic department to be paid out to the football roster of probably $16 million. That's in addition to whatever Happy Valley United or any other deals that are out there. So then you have to parcel out that $16 million, and it'll be interesting. Is there enough there to pay two 1,000-yard rushers who are in their fourth year? Those are the really hard decisions.
Maybe hard decisions, but let me throw something out there for you. I don't know what the rules state about this. I don't think anybody knows what the rules are. But who's to say people, I don't care what school it happens to be, Penn State or somebody else, who's to say there's not deferred money involved here?
Oh, is that your idea? I love that, Steve Jones. That's brilliant.
I mean,
that's something. I can share this at the Fiesta Bowl, and I love Matt Millen. I was privileged to spend a couple meals with him.
Isn't he the best?
Matt, he is. And I would say this if he's on the call. He's a great guy, super smart. I don't know how he ended up being the general manager that he was, but he negotiated with Al Davis deferred payments of $250,000 a year for 35 years, and he got the last payment last year.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Matt should be the capologist.
Maybe he should be, because you have to. There has to be ways where you think outside the box with this. And if you think outside the box, and the reason I bring it up is this: what if you are, I don't know, let's pick a player from another team. Okay, let's instead of doing Penn State, you're Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith. All right. Now I know you have to have him for 2 years, but you want to make sure he's not in the portal. Okay. Do I put together a deal where over the next 10 years, okay, I'm going to give him money, deferred money, right? That way, when he gets to the NFL, there's an injury, he's still got that coming in. Or, like, take their quarterback, Will Howard, who's not eligible to come back next year anyway. But say they're going after Will Howard. We need to have him for a year. We're going to give you X amount, but we're going to defer 5 years, because Will Howard's not going to be a pro quarterback. He'll be in the NFL, but he's going to be on the practice squad. Sorry.
Right. I mean, if he can keep his feet under him, that's enough.
Right. I'm just saying, but he'll probably be on the practice squad, third guy, second guy on certain weeks, whatever, but he'll still be getting money from Ohio State. I'm just saying, I think you have to think outside the box with some of this stuff.
I like that, Steve. You'd be the first broadcaster capologist. But even with James Franklin, James has his annual $1 million life insurance policy, and he gets the money that spins off of that. I mean, that's another way of getting deferred or enhanced revenue in a way that if you're putting, I mean, for Penn State, they get the life insurance policy, but every year it's spitting out money that James gets. Who's to say you couldn't do that for Denai Dennis Sutton?
Right, exactly. I'm just saying. Now, I don't know what the rules state you can or can't do. I don't know what the rules state on that. I don't think anybody knows what the rules are right now. But when you look at the 105-man roster, let's go to that part. The limit will be 105. Now, in my opinion, they need to change that. If you want to go to 105 scholarships and 15 practice players, a.k.a. walk-ons, that's better because you need that for practice. But going to 105, what does that do, in your opinion? Does it make the transfer portal more active because now you're trying to fill it with 20 extra guys on scholarship?
Well, you can, yeah, and they're going to go against your payroll numbers as well as your
Sure.
roster numbers. I think some ways, though, those guys will be less fungible. The 85 to 105, like especially the 90 to 105, those are the guys who may be special teamers, may start their last year, but they're the ones that have always wanted to play for dear old state. You know,
right. I agree.
Like Finn Furmanek, right? Is that his last name?
Finn Furmanek, the tight end. Dominic DeLuca, right? I mean, before he has a scholarship now, but he was a walk-on when he came here.
Yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate case, but you know, Finn may be the guy that personifies the last 20 spots.
Yep. Exactly right. Finn Furmanek is exactly that kind of guy. Tyler Holsworth, that kind of guy. You know, there's just a lot. Yep. I mean, there's a lot of guys that fall into that category. You know, and I could, Winston Yates. I mean, I can go on and on with guys that fill that category that you win because you have them on your team and they're there every day. And to me, they need to rethink that part of it. I mean,
well, and it's a great point, and I think it's fair to say that that's part of Penn State's brand, and it's part of Penn State's brand that I think James, even down to his post-game presser the other day, has embraced. You know, I think it's now a new and different kind of selling point.
It's interesting. Did you ever think that you would have to cover college sports in this manner, Mike? All those wonderful years in your career, did you ever think you'd have to cover it in this way?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's all changed. I mean, it's as busy. What's happening now is usually this is the time where it's a blackout, and then the head coach shows up on early February on signing day, and there's some quotes and some news, but no, and I don't think this is sustainable. I'm not the first person to
I agree.
say that, but it's not sustainable.
Let me ask you from an instruction point of view. From an instruction point of view, how do you talk to students about how it is today and how they need to cover it and what their adaptability has to be?
Well, same for you. That is a great question, and the class I teach is the industry, and not just media, and it is so much more. It's funny. My table's spread out here, finalizing my syllabus, and it is so much more of the industry and the business side of things than ever before. And here's the flip side of that. As a reporter, there's more of that to cover. But then from an industry standpoint, the local newspapers are not hiring beat writers really anymore. But the teams and the leagues and the sites, the industry has created a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunity as opposed to the media side of things.
Mike, always a pleasure. These are always interesting conversations because we, quote, live in interesting times. Thanks so much.
I love your deferred idea, Steve Jones. That's a home run, buddy.
We'll see. I don't know what the rules are. I may be proposing something that's against the rules, so I don't know.
Well, but it'll change next week, so that's okay.
That's true. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, see you, Steve. Bye-bye.
You bet. Mike Poorman, statecollege.com. All right.